Welcome to a brand new camera comparison between the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro against the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus. We start this test with 4K video recording at 60 frames per second. Both phones are capable of shooting 8K videos, but we are limiting this test at 4K. Now we are shooting at 1080p at 60 frames per second, and as you can see we have very similar results on both phones. We are using the main camera, and if we look at the specs, the Mi 10 Pro has a 108 megapixel lens compared to the 12 megapixel found on the S20 Plus. Specs aside, the S20 Plus video seems to be a tiny bit better. We have now switched to the ultrawide camera, and here you can see that the Mi 10 Pro is brighter, but the sky is overexposed. We are now shooting at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and sadly this is the maximum capacity the Mi 10 Pro can shoot. The S20 Plus can shoot at 4K at 60 frames per second. We have now switched to 4K on the S20 Plus, and tell me in the comment section below which one do you think has a better stabilization and which one is sharper and has better colors. Moving to images, and as you can see, both did a really good job. The S20 Plus is more vivid, but the Mi 10 Pro is brighter and my face is better exposed. We have very similar results here. Both phones did produce good images, but I do like the S20 Plus more because it did handle the sky better. Again, in this case they both did a really good job. The picture from the Mi 10 Pro is sharper, and it is also a little bit too flat. The picture from the S20 Plus has a very good balance. I also do like both pictures here, but again, the Mi 10 Pro is brighter and the S20 Plus has a better contrast. In this case I was a little bit disappointed by both phones because they crushed the white on the building. The sky is better exposed on the S20 Plus and my face is better handled on the Mi 10 Pro. Switching to the rear cameras, you can see that the picture from the S20 Plus is brighter and has a better contrast compared to the Mi 10 Pro. Besides the main camera, they also do feature an ultra-wide lens. This time the Mi 10 Pro picture is brighter, but the quality isn't that good compared to the S20 Plus. The Mi 10 Pro has also a dedicated 2x telephoto camera compared to the 3x hybrid zoom used for the S20 Plus. Here you can see that the S20 Plus picture is brighter and better exposed. The Mi 10 Pro has also a 10x hybrid zoom camera, which has actually only a 3.7x optical zoom. The fourth camera on the S20 Plus is only for depth, and it is only used for live focus videos. Just like before, the S20 picture here is much more pleasing for the eyes compared to the Mi 10 Pro picture, and if you use the ultra-wide camera, the results are again very similar. In this case I do prefer the Mi 10 Pro because it is brighter, and even though it is too flat, the trees are better exposed. And again, if we use the ultra-wide camera, the S20 Plus has better exposure, with the sky on the Mi 10 Pro being overexposed. In this case I do like both pictures. They are very similar and did handle the sky very well. In this case here, surprisingly, the S20 Plus is brighter and has almost no contrast compared to the Mi 10 Pro. I like both, and you can't go wrong with either of them. Here again the results are very similar. The dynamic range is on point on both phones. The Mi 10 Pro is a little bit on the cooler side compared to the warmer shot on the S20 Plus. For this last daylight case again we have very similar results. Both phones have really amazing cameras, and when it comes to daylight pictures, you will be happy with whichever phone you will choose. Now let's move for some low light shots, and starting with some selfies, you can see here that they really did a good job exposing my face. The S20 Plus did also manage to handle the lights better. In this next case it is the Mi 10 Pro the one who did handle the lights better. If we use the night mode with the front camera, you can see that the S20 Plus did make my face artificial. The Mi 10 Pro did manage to keep the originality of the picture. Here both phones are very similar, the lights are well exposed and we have plenty of details. Again here there are almost no differences at all, the S20 Plus seems to be just a bit sharper. With the ultra-wide camera you can see that the S20 Plus is even wider and has more distortion, but again it is sharper. In this case the S20 Plus is warmer and has better colors. The Mi 10 Pro failed to preserve the lights. If we use the ultra-wide camera, however, you can see that the text is sharper on the Mi 10 Pro, but the picture is still darker. In these next shots I've used the night mode, and the results speak for themselves. Both phones are really good for nighttime photography. Pictures are sharp and vibrant, and I've noticed that the night mode on the S20 Plus makes pictures warmer with more contrast. The Mi 10 Pro on the other hand tends for a more natural look. Overall, I like both phones and I can't decide which one is better.